2 minit lagi. So what I found, Prof, hari ni dalam 130 people registered lah for this webinar lah.
Okay, good number, alhamdulillah.
Okay, I think we can start. Boleh kot dah?
Boleh. Nanti dia yang pelan-pelan masuk tu.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all the participants for the webinar, a potential research topic in logistics and transportation. My name is Muhammad Azam bin Din. I'm one of the co-hosts of this event. This webinar is a program initiated by the Chartered Institute of Logistics in Malaysia as well as Faculty of Science, Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman, whereby we want to provide more exposure and knowledge in terms of areas of logistics, transportation and supply chain to the attendees and also those who are interested in these topics. For today, we have a webinar. The name of this webinar again, that is the potential research topics in logistics and transportation. So this webinar is to discuss about the potential topics for this area, logistics and transportation. So we intended to share the knowledge between researchers. Our panel today is Professor Dr. Muhammad Zaly Shah bin Hussein. He's a fellow at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and he will provide knowledge sharing for us today. So without further ado, I will give this event to TS Khairul Ridwan. He's from Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman, and also he's a chartered member with the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport in Malaysia. So he will become the moderator of the event. So TS Khairul, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, technologist Dr. Muhammad Azam. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all the participants, speakers, researchers, lecturers, and students. Welcome to our virtual webinar for today. My name is Khairul Rizwan, will be the moderator for today's webinar. The title of our webinar today is the potential research topic in logistics and transportations. So basically, this webinar is organized by the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport in Malaysia, or CILTM, and the collaboration with Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman Kampar campus. So as mentioned by technologist Dr. Azam, the webinar is basically to discuss and explore the potentials and the trends topic for research in the area of logistics and transportations. And actually, this is the sharing knowledge between the researcher with the students in higher learning institutions and among the CILTM members in order to conduct the related research with to logistics and also the transportation. So the objective of this webinar actually is to support the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 9, which is related to industry, innovation, and also infrastructures, and to identify the potential research topics with regards to the logistics and transportations, and to promote the research collaboration among CILTM members in higher learning institutions. So this webinar is tentatively 2 hours starting from now until 12 p.m. and will be presented by our invited speakers from Universiti Teknologi Malaysia UTM Skudai. So before we begin, I would like to remind and encourage the participant to use the chat box or to drop any related questions with our topic today, and we will try to ask the speaker if we have the time at the last session later. Okay, we are honored today. We have here Prof. Technologist Dr. Muhammad Zaly Shah bin Muhammad Hussein from Universiti Teknologi Malaysia is our speaker for today. Welcome, and once again, thank you for your presence in this webinar, Prof. So for introduction, Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Zaly Shah, or well known as Prof. Zaly, is currently the Director of Center for Innovative Planning and Development, CIPD, Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. His field of expertise are transportation planning and also logistics, with a special interest in sustainable transportation, particularly in active mobility, pedestrians, crowd modeling, and also GIS transportation. So he is also the Chartered Fellow at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport Malaysia, and a registered professional technologist by Board of Technologists and Board. And since 2012, he is also the member of the boards of the Director Johor Public Transportation Commissions, PAJ. So I think without further ado, I invited Prof. Zaly to deliver his sharing. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you, Technologist Khairul Rizwan, and thank you, Dr. Muhammad Azam, for inviting me to share my insights on future direction for research in the field of transportation and logistics. It is a great honor indeed to be invited by UTAR and CILTM for this morning session. I'm sure we have better things to do during this weekend, but we chose to be in front of our computer to hear me giving some pointers on future direction for research in our field. I hope that I make your time worthwhile, and at the end of the day, we should have some better understanding on how we could direct our research in the future. Let me first share my slides. Yeah, I have a slide ready. All right. Okay. When I was approached by technologist Dr. Muhammad Azam to give a talk on this topic, I thought that this is going to be an easy one to do. Unfortunately, when I ponder deeper, I find that it is not as easy as I first initially thought. The reason is why, because I think that people might misunderstood the reason why we have this webinar on this topic. I found that logistics and transportation is a very diverse field. There are many subtopics within logistics and transportation, and even if I look at my areas or my interests, which is active mobility and pedestrianism, it is not considered as one of the trend in research as far as logistics and transportation is concerned. But does it mean that I have to change my interest in order to be in line with the current trend? It is not necessarily so, because research should be based on your interests and what you like to do. We should understand where the rest of the world is moving towards, but at the same time, we should be footed firmly in our interests as far as research is concerned. So I think that take whatever that I say in this webinar with pinch of salt. which is to understand current trends rather than as a direction where you should change in order to be with the current trend. So it doesn't have to. You don't have or you don't necessarily have to change your research interests based on what I mentioned today. At the same time, I as an academician or a scientist, I need some facts in order uh, to assess the current trends in order to identify a potential research topic or future direction in terms of logistics and transportation. And in that note, I have applied an analytical method called bibliometric analysis to give me some idea, even for myself, on where the future is moving towards. Yeah? So if I were to revise this webinar title, it would be something like this: potential research topics in logistics and transportation and application of bibliometric analysis. So basically, I'll be applying analysis on bibliometric data in order to somehow factually identify where the trend is for logistics and transport in terms of research. Now, this talk this morning is not intended to be definitive in terms of where the direction is moving, but rather it is an attempt to identify the trend of future research. Yeah? So be guided accordingly. Yeah. All right. In doing this bibliometric analysis, of research topics in order to identify future trends in logistics and transportation, I face some limitation because the data is so diverse and there are many sources of information that I may refer to. However, for the purpose of this morning discussion, I will be focusing only on bibliometric data that are available within Scopus. I did not refer to Web of Science database or other databases or indexing mechanism like Google Scholar, but rather than focusing solely on what is available within Scopus. As I mentioned earlier, logistics and transportation is a very diverse field. It can be involved in many other applications, many applications. But as this event is organized by CILTM together with UTAR, Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman, I believe that most of us would be more interested in the application of logistics and transportation in the field of business and management rather than in engineering or any other technical field. So I have consciously limit my search for bibliometric data only within the subject areas of business and management. The source of publication can also be as diverse as the subject area. There are books, technical reports, and whatnot. But for the purpose of this analysis, I limit myself only to analyzing publications or articles that are published in journals and conference proceedings. Yeah? The history of this field goes back many years. It is quite impossible as well as impractical to identify research topics since the beginning of time. Hence, I limit my search only within a 20-year period from 2000 to 2020. I omitted 2021 because we are still in 2021. And if I include 2021, then I will be having articles that have yet to be published or is still under consideration. All right. The other limitation, the last limitation that I had when I am preparing for this talk is that I need to identify where the keywords of logistics and transportation appears. And I have decided that that I search the keywords of logistics and transportation only within the article title and index keywords. So this limitation may limit the number of articles that I have found from Scopus. But again, as I did not intend this to be a definitive guide of future direction in research for these fields, so I think whatever that I had from Scopus would be enough to give some good indications on future directions of research within our fields. All right. With that said, I will start my analysis of future trends in research first for the field of logistics. Okay, when I went to Scopus and I applied all these search terms like in the keywords that appear in index and author in article titles, and limit the results within only subject area of business and management, limit the article types only to be within articles and conference proceeding from year 2000 to 2020 and only published in English. I found that there are 4,656 documents that met the criteria, the search criteria that I have included when I did the search. Okay. Within this 4,000 plus articles, there are also other articles that appear in other subject areas. But again, for the purpose of discussion in this morning, I will limit the findings within only the business management and accounting, which gave me a good sizable number of articles for me to analyze, about 4,600 plus articles. All right. So, but be forewarned that the articles on logistics does not appear only in the subject area of business management or accounting, but they can also be found in other subject areas like design sciences as well as engineering and the rest. Okay. In terms of the countries that produce these 4,600 plus logistic articles within 2000 to 2020, the leader is China. China published almost 1,700 articles within the field of logistics. Okay, but we we are doing quite well as well. No, actually, in terms of the countries in the world, Malaysia is at number 7. Okay, with 132 articles. But as you can see from the chart, even though we are at number 7 with 132. When we compare with China and United States, for example, now we are way behind them in terms of number of publications in Scopus Index journals or conference proceedings. This is the list of the top 20 journals that publish articles in logistics, and obviously International Journal of Logistics Systems and Management produces the most. But you may ask, how come International Journal and Logistics System and Management published only 148 articles within the 20-year period? Actually, they published more. In fact, almost all their articles might be somehow related to the field of logistics, but they do not appear in my findings because the article title or the index keywords do not have the word logistics in it. So this give you some pointer that in order for you to be cited, it is advisable that in your publication title or your index, you should include the word logistics. That will give you higher probability to for your article to be found, and when your article is found by potential writers or authors, you might be cited, and that will increase your citation as well as your H index. Okay. All right. So this is the trend. If you see that we are on the growing trend, there are more and more articles being published in the field of logistics as we move forwards. But we have seen some serious dip in the number of articles being published. But you know, the number is improving and increasing now as we move forward. As far as the type of articles, most of the publication that I found within my search criteria, more than 50% articles in journals, and there are approximately 40% of the articles are published in conference proceedings. Okay. As far as Malaysia is concerned, we are also moving on a growing trend, but in 2020 we had a decline in the number of publications by Malaysian authors, and in fact this trend is not unique to Malaysia. There are other countries that have also seen the decline in the number of articles published. This is the time when we first face the COVID-19 pandemic issues, which might affected the research that we are doing, as well as the publication activity within that year. Okay. But I have seen an indication that in 2021 the number has increased to be more than 11. Yeah. Okay. Again, for Malaysian authors, we tend to publish our articles within the logistic field in journals rather than in conference proceedings. So that is the trend for our country. As the citation matrix, when I analyze the citation matrix, there is a stark difference between the global trend when compared to the trend in Malaysia. In terms of statistics, our total citation is very much lower, and the average citations per paper is also very much lower than the global average, which indicates that even though we do write papers and papers are published within a reputable journal, but our paper does not garner much interest by potential authors to include our paper within their references. Yeah. However, in terms of average number of authors per paper, we tend to include more authors as compared to the global average. Globally, the average number of authors per paper is only at 2.73, but in Malaysia, the average is very much higher at 3.54. So Malaysian papers tend to have more authors as compared to papers in other countries. Yeah? And the lower number of citations that our papers have attracted is further reflected in the lower number of H index. But I believe that when the trend of publication within the field of logistics in Malaysia pick up again post-pandemic, I would think that we would have higher H index as well as a higher number of citations per paper. All right. In terms of institution in Malaysia, UUM leads the pack with almost 1/3 of the papers in Malaysia within the field of logistics came from UUM. And these are the top 5 institutions in Malaysia that publish papers in the field of logistics. I believe that one of the objective of this webinar is to encourage collaboration among researchers and for future or potential authors. This list would highlight where the biggest number of authors came from and their affiliation. So if you want to write papers or want to do research in the field of logistics, you are encouraged to connect with authors from these universities because they would have higher experience in publication within journals indexed by Scopus. Okay. Now, when I want to analyze trends in research within the field of logistics, I perform this cluster analysis of keywords. In total, there are almost 500 keywords that I analyze, and based on cluster analysis, the almost 500 keywords can be clustered into 13 clusters. Okay, so you can see that most of the papers globally in the world is published within the area or the subject of logistics and supply chain management. So how logistics address or support supply chain management are the most popular research areas, followed by optimization, performance and benchmarking, the application of artificial intelligence within logistics, logistic information systems at number 5, number 6, environment and sustainability, and so on and so forth. Okay, you can go through this clustering in order to identify where your interest lies. Yeah? So you can see that you can identify whether your interests are within the popular research areas or not. Yeah. This is cluster analysis for the world, the entire world. But if you look at Malaysia papers, okay, we tend to publish within these 7 fields, 7 areas: halal logistics, information systems, economic analysis, competitive strategy, third-party logistics, supply chain, and environmental sustainability. Okay, so you can see how these papers are linked, and you can see that there are no papers that are specifically on one subject area, but it is a combination of 2 or more subject areas. Yeah. So in Malaysia, we can say that as far as logistics is concerned, the field of logistics is concerned, our interests can be divided into two areas, which is logistic competitiveness as well as green supply chain. In terms of trends, this is a temporal analysis or analysis based on time. And if you look at the legend, the darker the color, it means that the older the trend, the keyword is. Yeah? Newer keywords are indicated by lighter colors, and yellow the keywords that are most recent. Yeah, and if you look, this is the temporal analysis for the global trend in the field of logistics. But for Malaysia, most of our papers, most papers that are very current focuses on environmental sustainability as well as halal logistics. If I look at both the trend in terms of subject area and the trend in terms of time, I can extract some very useful information, and combining those two information will give you some ideas on future trends in the field of logistics. And the first trend that I can I can observe is that most recent publications globally link to the concept of sustainability or green logistics. And I think this is very logical, because with the with the idea of sustainability, as TS Khairul Rizwan mentioned earlier, and the notion of sustainable development is very much current. Most authors or most research attempt to identify the contribution of logistics in sustainable development as well as energy efficiency. Yeah. So this is the first global trend that I can detect. And the second global trend that I also identified is the interest in cold chain. Okay, so how you perform or how cold chain perform is very current interest, because you can see from the analysis that cold chain is related to performance analysis, and they are very recent. How you analyze cost efficiency for cold chain is also a very current trend globally. In Malaysia, which is almost similar to the global trend, our logistics publication are related to environmental sustainability and how that can increase competitiveness of our logistics provider or services. And the second trend that I can extract from the data, from the bibliometric data, is on halal logistics, and how halal logistics are related to competitive strategy, how halal logistics support overall supply chain management, and the economic analysis of supply chain. Not to forget also how halal logistics work together with the concept of 3PL. So these are two trends in Malaysia in terms of publication in the field of logistics. Now, as a summary, looking at the global trend, the trend in Malaysia, as well as the popular keywords globally as well as in Malaysia, I can summarize the potential research areas within the field of logistics would be on first, sustainable supply chain and logistics, which is combination of supply chain and sustainability. Second would be a green supply chain or logistics, which is the combination of supply chain logistics and low carbon. Cold chain performance, halal supply chain, halal logistics and competitive strategy, halal logistics and third-party logistics, as well as economic analysis of supply chain and logistics. Good. So these are the trend that I saw from both data provided by Scopus in the world as well as in Malaysia. Now the question is, should I change my interest to be in this area? You might, or you may want to, but it is not necessarily so. Yeah? Even though your papers might not be within this potential or within this trend, but it should not stop you from publishing articles within your research interest, because sometimes lack of articles in a particular area might increase a probability of your papers to be accepted. It is just that your papers might not be within the global trend, but having a paper within an area which are not published a lot might also increase the probability of your papers being accepted, because they are very much lack of literatures within the area, so it is more desirable. Okay, all right, so that is in the field of logistics. Next, I will cover the field of transportation. Okay. I did the same process as I did earlier for the field of logistics. And for transportation, I found lesser number of articles having the keywords of transportation in both the article title as well as the index keywords. But that doesn't mean that there are very little number of publications in the field of transportation. It's just that the title or the index might not include the word transportation, which results in the articles cannot be detected within my search criteria. No, some articles might not have even a word or a term reflecting transportation, but it is also considered as publication in logistics. But for my search, they will not appear. Yeah, all right. Again, I limit my search within business management and accounting. Therefore, my analysis does not include papers within the field of engineering, design sciences, or computer science, and whatnot. Yeah, this is, I think, okay, because it is never my intention to provide a definitive guides on what the future research should be, but rather to identify or to get some insights on the future direction of research within the field of transportation. The top 10 countries publishing research papers in transportation is US, followed by China. Malaysia is at number 20, which is not bad at all. This is the top 20 journals, active transportation journals that publish research articles in the field of transportation. And the trend for publication in the field of transportation is growing. And I don't think that this trend would change anytime soon. No, as more and more research being published, as we have more and more researchers in this field as well. Similar to logistics, most articles are published in journals as compared to conference papers of conference proceedings. And this global trend is also imitated by Malaysia. We also see a growing trend, a positive growth of number of papers in the field of transportation. And in terms of categories of papers, publications, we also follow closely with the global trend, where we publish more in journals rather than in conference proceedings. Okay, this is the citation matrix from the year 2000 to 2020, and similar to logistics, we have lesson average, lower average as compared to global average in terms of citations per paper. Again, similar to logistics, Malaysians tend to include more authors per paper as compared to the world. Yeah? On average, the world only the rest of the world only include on average 2.9 authors per paper as compared to Malaysian papers, which is almost close to 4. So we have a lot of authors per paper. I'm not sure why, but this is the trend. Maybe we are very friendly. We want to include our friends in our publications. We include all our supervisors in our publications. That increase the average number of authors per paper. But in terms of impact, in the field of logistics, we have lower impact as compared to the world. In terms of H index, we are only at 26 as compared to 65 for the rest of the world. In terms of institutions, these are the top 5 institutions that publish papers in the field of transportation. Yeah. UTM, UKM, UUM, UPM, and USM. I think this reflect the history of the field of transportation, because it is an older field as compared to logistics. Therefore, historically, this old institution, in fact, these 5 are the research universities of Malaysia, had published more papers as compared to younger institutions in Malaysia. So there are some historical element, I think, in terms of papers in the field of transportation. In analyzing the keywords or the subject area or the research area, there are more research areas or subject areas in the field of transportation, but the number of clusters or how you group these keywords is lesser than compared to logistics. I think transportation field of study is more well defined as compared to logistics. Maybe because again, historically, transportation is older relatively to the field of logistics. Most of papers in the field of transportation can be grouped into 7 clusters. The first being transportation decision sciences, followed by transportation systems. And as you see, the number of keywords for cluster 1 and cluster 2, they are very close at 96 and as compared to 93, which means that these are very 2 popular keywords, followed by transportation management, sustainable transportation, risk, safety, and security. Now, if you are interested in dangerous goods, for example, cluster 5 would be the clusters that dangerous goods would fall into: intelligent transportation system as well as freight transportation. In Malaysia, the number of clusters are slightly lower, lesser than the global situation. Most of our papers in Malaysia focuses on sustainable transportation, transportation systems, transport management, risk, safety, and security, and finally, intelligent transportation systems. Analyzing these keywords relative to time will indicate that there are many recent topics which is reflected by the many yellow bubbles, because yellow bubbles indicate more recent topics as compared to the darker bubbles, which indicate an older topic. So there are many diverse recent field of study within transportation. And interestingly, when comparing with the field of logistics, we have more research keywords, and I think this is reflected by the diverse interests among researchers in the field of transportation within our institutions, and extracting the information from the temporal analysis as well as the cluster analysis, I can identify a few trends in transportation. First is anything related to sustainable development, as well as energy efficiencies. Second would be the trends in anything related to urban transportation systems, public transportation, as well as transportation network, efficiency of transportation network within urban context. In Malaysia, the trend is almost similar, almost duplicate what the global trend is, which is on sustainability. We publish a lot on carbon economy of transportation systems. We look at emissions, we look at energy conservation as well as energy conversion, and how this relate to economic growth. In other words, when looking at these trends, I see that our papers in the field of transportation are less technical as compared to the global trend. Our papers tend to be very less technical. I'm not sure why. We maybe how we did research, as well as the focus of our research grants in Malaysia, which maybe put transportation within non-technical fields. Next, the second research trend that I found from my bibliometric analysis of publications within the field of transportation in Malaysia is on freight transportation. And again, if you see, freight transportation is related to energy conservation, which indicates that we don't only look at freight transportation per se, but we look at green freight transportation. So this is the most recent trend in publication from Malaysian authors. And the third trend that I can detect from papers by Malaysian authors are papers that look at the application of big data in the field of transportation. Okay, and how this big data is used to guide decision making in terms of transportation. So these are some of the trends that I've seen and detected from my analysis of the articles within the field of transportation. And if I want to summarize both what is happening in the world as well as the trend in Malaysia, I would summarize the trends to be within these 6 areas, which is sustainable transportation, which is transportation plus sustainable development, transportation investment, transportation, which is combination of transportation and life cycle analysis, urban transportation efficiency, urban transportation, and how it is reflected within the idea of a network must be efficient, the application of big data and how it guides decision making within transportation, green freight transportation plus green energy, and how it catalyze economic growth, and finally intelligent urban transportation and intelligent systems. So these are the general trend in terms of research in the field of transportation. Again, take this with a pinch of salt, because it does not indicate whether you should switch or change your research interest. but to understand more on where the rest of the papers are moving into the future. Okay, so these are the thing that I want to share with you this morning. What I've done is I've done a bibliometry analysis on publications in the field of logistics and transportation. And doing so, I limit my choice only papers that are indexed by Scopus and within the year between 2000 and 2020. All right. So just a reminder again, this it is never intended to be a definitive guide, but but only to give you some insights on the future direction of our fields. Yeah? So with that, thank you very much. I pass back to our moderator, technologist Khairul Rizwan.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation, Prof. So we check here if got any questions from the audience. All right, the audience, I think if you have any questions, related questions to our topic today, you can drop by your questions here so that I can ask the Prof. Zaly to answer your questions. I think it's not only limited to this lah. I think we can discuss more on, maybe in terms of publication or in terms of any research activities lah.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So I have one question here from Chi Xiang Wong. He or she, I'm not sure. The research interest is in computer science, and I mentioned just now about efficiency. Whether optimization is related to efficiency? Yes, optimization is related to efficiency, especially how it is part of the field of operational research. Myself, I came from a research interest in operational research, mathematical programming, like linear programming, integer programming, even mixed integer programming is also a very well researched areas combining with transportation. So I encourage any research to analyze the efficiency of transportation using mathematical sciences. I think what I can do is I can pass this slide to the organizer, the host, and if possible, maybe the organizer or the host can share this slide with the attendees later.
Yeah. Because I think Dr. Azam already post here the form, so that from there I think we can get your email from that, so then we can distribute and share.
Thank you.
So basically, Prof, I think as we know that now I think most of our participant is mostly students, so maybe they are actually new into this research and also project, final projects activities. Maybe they are not maybe familiar with the Scopus things, and then maybe you can suggest some maybe different channel for them to find a new topic or related topic they want to to conduct lah. For example, like from maybe from WOS and also maybe from Google Scholar.
Yes, sure. In fact, any students who have interest in pursuing research in the field of logistics and transportation, I would encourage them to perform bibliometry analysis to identify research gap, good research areas, and that can be used as part of their literature review to justify their choice of research topic, and also to identify or even to list articles within their chosen research topics. So I think now the challenge is for us supervisors to also be equipped with the knowledge on how to perform bibliometric analysis in order to guide our students, our postdoctorate students, especially on how to conduct a good bibliometric analysis, specifically focusing on the research interests. Yeah. What I've done is very general bibliometric analysis on a very wide field or very wide terminology of logistics and transportation. But that should not stop you to do a more focus or an in-depth bibliometric analysis on a specific research field or research keywords. Yeah? I suggest all of us get or learn how to perform bibliometric analysis. There are many tools available. Some of them are free, can be downloaded for free from the internet, and with some time invested in learning those tools and understanding the statistics will give us very good justifications as well as a very good list of recent articles within our research topic.
All right. I think beside that, Doctor, I think most of our university and the colleges here today they already subscribe some certain journal, web, and so on. But I think in terms of how the another factors in terms of how they are doing the filtering function and also screening the paper is also another issues, because
Yes.
maybe they are not very familiar, for example, like how to use the truncations, wildcard, boolean and operator, and also a searching string. So
Yep.
maybe this also can enhance for them to get more papers,
Yes.
related papers in order for them to do the studies.
Yes. In fact, the application of these tools are not limited to only when you are doing research, but also can be used as a strategic tool for institutions in order to select which research fields that your institutions or your department want to focus on, or want to be involved in. When you understand the scenario in the country, so that there will be less competitions, or it can be used as a strategic networking tool in order to identify where your potential collaborators are located when you are, for example, applying research grants.
Okay, Prof. We have questions here from our chat box here from technologist Muhammad Farid. Any grant opportunities provided by the government for the researchers to be conducted related to logistics and transport?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Muhammad Farid. Yes, there are a number of research grants. In fact, most research grants that are awarded by KPT, Kementerian Pengajian Tinggi, or Ministry of Higher Education, accept applications for research in the field of logistics and transportation. In fact, that is one of the key focus areas, especially if you relate your research to smart mobility or green transportation. That is part of the key areas or key national key research areas, NKRA. I am one of the evaluators for research grant applications at KPT, and last year I think we received almost 100 applications, but the quality is very diverse. resulting in most of the applications are rejected. I think the ability to justify your research and to relate to the current research trends is somewhat lacking, resulting in majority of the grant applications are rejected at the KPT level, even though they are recommended by the institutions. This is something that researchers need to sharpen their skill, not just in their research fields, but also skills in grant applications. There are many experts. There are many evaluators in the field of logistics and transportation. I suggest that you invite any of them to your institutions to share their experience and to provide you tips and pointers on how to be successful in your applications.
Yeah, I think that one is also another factor, because nowadays I think most of our institutions are looking into the something like cross studies, or actually multidiscipline studies. I think this one also is one of the contribution to, to enhance the possibility to the panels to accept that kind of area of studies.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Totally agree.
But, Prof, I think here also, beside the students, I think we also have the researcher. I think maybe you can give some tips how to enhance in terms of the acceptance among the when they submit their papers to for publication, or maybe some of them are applying for grants. I think what kind of maybe you can give some tips for them to be accepted lah.
I think one of the reasons, or one of the major reasons why most of the applications are rejected is failure to write a good problem statement. Sometimes the evaluators they could not understand what problem that you are solving and how that will benefit the nation in terms of economy, or in terms of competitiveness of the nation. That is one. The other one is literature reviews. Sometimes the literature review that we wrote are not current, are not strong enough to support the justification for our applications. If I can give you another one, then that would be failure to identify the novelty of the research. What is good about the research? That I think that would be the three most or the three weakest points in most of the applications that are rejected. So in order for you to be very successful in your applications, I think the problem statement must be very clear, and how it will benefit the nation, and why it is a novelty in terms of research must be very well understood by the evaluators. You have to understand that the evaluators, they have many applications, but the number of research grants or the amount of research grants are very limited. They are not. They are looking for reasons to reject your applications. So if the problem statement are not clear, the literature review is not current, or does not truly support the research problem, the novelty cannot be clearly identified from the applications, that give reasons, strong reasons for the evaluators to reject your application.
Right, thank you, Prof. And then the other questions, maybe in terms of, for example, like nowadays people, when among the researcher, we're talking about the impact factors, and then we are focusing, and then we are sometimes the researcher also being, burdened with these, impact factors, and then how far we need really depends more on the impact factors papers, or in order for us to actually go more, in our areas. Yes.
It is good to be mindful of the impact factors when selecting your journals that you send your papers, but it should not be the only guiding principles in selecting the journals, especially if you are young researchers. My advice is to start at the very highest level of journals. I used to give a different advice. I used to give advice that you aim at a lower ranking journal first, and then as you get more experience, then you submit at higher journals. But I think that is self-defeating, because sometimes our paper is very good, but when we send to a lower ranking journal with lower impact factors, it might be immediately accepted, but you will never know the true potential of your papers. I give a different advice now. My advice is try to send to Q1 journal first. If it is good, it will be accepted. If not, you will receive advice or highlights from the reviewers where your papers are lacking, and these highlights or comments are from Q1 reviewers. And if you can improve them, you might not get into Q1, but you might be accepted with higher probability at maybe Q2. So it is still good. Still good. How will I improve my my PACE index, for example? Getting your papers into higher ranking journals is a good strategy, but there are other strategies as well. For example, sharing your papers, especially now, there are many papers that are open access. Sharing your papers in research gates, so that people know that you published something. People are notified when you publish something, and that will give you more visibility, give your articles more visibility, and there will be that will encourage people to request for a copy of your papers, and that will increase the probability of your papers being cited. So do not ignore requests that you receive within research gates, but there is nothing that you can do as compared to publishing. If you did not publish, if you did not write, you will never get citations. You will never get your papers visible. So the first thing that you need to do is to write. And unfortunately, in order to write, you need to do research. So the culture of research must be inculcated. You must be active in researching. You must be active in applying for research grants in order for you to do research. Institution-wise, you should provide opportunities. You should provide internal grants to support research activities by the researchers, especially in fields that might not have much grants allocated by the ministry. So this must be done by the institutions. At the same time, for researchers, you should not be discouraged if you did not have research grants. There is no rules that state that you can only do research when you have research grants. Research can be done even without a research grant. So you have to be very creative in doing research. For example, you might do a small research that involve your students as part of classroom activities, as part of class projects. But please do give due credits to the students that are involved and participate in your research activities. Okay, so there are many things that we can do. Some are very formal, some just need a little bit of creativity from our side in order to do research, as well as which will give you ideas on writing papers. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Okay, I have other questions regarding, the topic today's. I think most of your presentation, I think you highlight in depth, in terms of transportations and then supply chains and also logistics itself. But when we look into the trends nowadays, they are moving. For example, like we have Industry 4.0, and then we have IoT, the autonomous, big data, cloud computing, 3D printings. All these, I think, is also another new topics. In with regards to logistics and transportation. How this area can be, we can look into more deeper to enhance our possibility for submission. Our paper for publications.
These are the thing that is within the concept of systems, the concept of or the research areas of intelligence, the area of artificial intelligence. Yeah? If you look at my my slides, when I did clustering, so you can see that there are decision sciences. How we apply science to guide decisions in transportation, optimizations, the application of technology, the application of IoT in making decisions within the field of transportation falls within these clusters. Now, as you can see that these clusters group together almost 400 research terms. IoT, IR 4.0, artificial intelligence, big data, one of these clusters. Yeah. So even if you look at the the bubbles, you can see that the left side of the slide, you can see that there are a lot of bubbles that refers to topics like algorithms, fuzzy sets, linear programming, fuzzy systems, empirical analysis, decision support systems. All these require data. Now, data can come from many sources. It can come from a database that collect various variability of many diversified data within the field of transportation, or it can come from sensors within the context of IoT or IR 4.0. Okay, so this is a very good area to be involved in. This is clearly was some very interesting research topic, as evidenced by the many bubbles, that points towards that direction. So, by all means, do research in data systems, or data support systems. And I think there is, again, this is not definitive. This is just to give some idea of what other people are doing, not necessarily
Focus.
It should not dictate what you should be doing. It should only guide rather than dictate.
All right, Prof. Okay, we have questions here from our participant from Hui Ni Aoyong. Which related government agency provide the research grant in logistics and supply chain beside MOHI or MOSTI?
Okay. I think this is the weakest link in research in our country. Yeah. MOT, MITI, for example, does not give much attention to research, and if they do, it might be by appointment basis. They might have identified a few areas they want to understand. They do research and they appoint researchers to do that research for them. But in terms of grants that they publish and invite applications, they are very few that are available, other than those that are offered by KPT. This is something that CILTM can propose and work together with the agencies, given your strong relationship with MOT and MITI, and encourage them to give out more grants, or maybe create special grants for research within this field, because what the pandemic has shown us, for one thing, is that logistics and transportation is very important. Now, without logistics and transportation, I think our success rate in combating COVID-19 would be very much lower. If you see those undeveloped countries, their biggest challenge is logistics and transportation, to provide us the necessary support, humanitarian support, for their population in this crisis. We had done something very good. We need to document that. We need to identify that, so that in the event of future crisis, we know what to do. We have better understanding on critical factors that determine the success rate of combating our crisis. So this is something that I totally encourage CILTM to do. We have good relationship with MITE. We have good relationship with MOT. We have strong relationship with MITI. Let's encourage them to do, or to allow us to do more research.
All right, thank you, Prof. Okay, we have other questions from Alfred Fernandez. The cost of transportation and logistics have considerably increased from 2020 and 2021 due to COVID-19 pandemic. This is not due to inefficiency of the system, but also because of the considerable reductions in movement of people and goods. So what is your maybe ideas, opinion on that?
All right. I think the person that asked question has already provided the answer, because of course. But I think finally it is based on supply and demand. When because our trucks does not move unnecessarily, they only move when there are demand for the movement, and that demand will be the success on meeting that demand will be determined by how we can supply the services, and within crisis, the needs for capacity for freight transportation has different priority. There are higher priority, so that lower priority are given to other use of logistics and transportation that reflect in the lower number of vehicles that are allocated for other purposes, other than crisis management or humanitarian. With that lower number of supply, of course, when we try to match with high demand, that will increase the cost of services. I think finally it is the economy of providing the services, and economy goes back to supply and demand equilibrium. If you have high demand, lower supply, supply will be at a high cost. Those who can pay will get the services, and services that has higher priority will be given better allocation or larger allocations of supply. Okay.
All right, Prof. Okay, Alfred Fernandez mentioned also they got another question is I'm interested in the aviation sectors. Having been in the aviation industry throughout my career, the aviation industry has worldwide been faced with the survivability problem in having sustainable operation and often have to be bailed out. Aviation has faced many challenges and many have shut down. So so far, will you know of research that helped the aviation sector in finding a good formula for success, full operation with all the challenges and disruptions? For example, like oil crisis previously and now pandemic issues.
Okay, thank you, Alfred Fernandez. I myself came from an aviation industry. I used to work with in aviation sector in an airline before I joined the academia. Even before the crisis, the aviation industry is a very volatile industry. It depends on many factors. Yeah? Some is based on the practice of the industry itself. For example, the industry is practicing hedging in order to secure certain supply. For example, fuel. The airline practice hedging, and they have to commit to certain price for a certain period of time. And then the aviation industry or the airline industry is very much dependent upon economy, dependent on political stability. Even if a war broke down, the airline will be affected very much. When I was working with the airline industries, I had an experience where some of the airspace was closed because it was declared as a no-fly zone due to war, and the airline has to reroute the flights and taking a longer distance of travel to reach their destinations, and that will influence how airlines is practice the industry, and how profitable the industry is. That is even before the crisis, the pandemic. What more when we had this crisis, when the demand for air travel is almost null or almost zero, because people were the people's movements are restricted. They couldn't travel, they couldn't go abroad, and coupled with high costs of the industry, the infrastructure cost is very high. Most of the aircraft are leased. The repayment amount of aircraft is very expensive. It's very high. The interest rate and whatnot, and these are formulas that spell distraction for the industry. Okay, now if you ask me how to recover or how to guide the industry out of the crisis, you have to understand all the factors, all the variables that affect the industries in the first place. Now, you need to remove those factors that no, that influence or that affect the industry in order for the industry to be back on its feet again. Yeah. So this is very complex situations. Some of them are not within the control of the industry. Yeah. So this is what you need to understand. The, very many things to research on, and I encourage you to do some in this field. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. I think before I pass my button to technologist Dr. Azam.
Yes, Khairul, can I have one question to Prof?
Yes, can.
Sorry, Prof, but I have a question to you. Because
Sure.
you know, logistics and transport, mostly these are, we are involved with hands-on activity, right? So
Yes.
in your opinion, Prof, if we conducting research in terms of case study, the concept of doing a case study about something related to logistics and transportation, what do you think the best forward to conduct such research?
Okay. All right. I think if you want to do case studies, it is a good topic, a good area to do that, but you have to make sure that there is something that people can learn from the case, from the case study. It is just not to relate what happened or what is the cases, what are the cases or what are the situation. That will not get much interest from the publisher. Sometimes case study can be very interesting, especially if no, the case involve some applications of technology, some applications of decision strategy, decision process that might be of interest to other similar industries, yeah? In other similar industries. Don't just relate, don't just describe, rather offer some knowledge that you get from the case, and relate that knowledge to some theory within the field of logistics or transportation, so that people can learn and can adopt and adapt the solutions that you propose or you relate in your case. So I think case study is very good. Sometimes we learn from how other people manage their problem, and the same thing that people wants to know and to learn how we manage our problem, and that can be within a case study paper.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Welcome.
All right.
And also, if I can add some more, Dr. Azam, is to highlight the uniqueness of the case. Now, how the case is unique, and how people can apply the unique knowledge that is within the case in their own situation.
And thank you, Prof.
Welcome.
All right. I think before I pass the button to technologist Dr. Azam, maybe Prof can update us about maybe your current what actually the project maybe related to transport and logistics in either from state or maybe from the national perspective. What kind of now you are doing now? Maybe you can share with us.
These are two different things. What is what I'm doing out of my interest, and what I'm doing as part of the nation. As far as my interest is concerned, I'm very interested in active mobility, non-motorized transportation. Pedestrianism is my thing, and if you can see that it is not within the trend of the future. But I get many papers published because this is something that people don't write on, and there are still demand for this knowledge. So this is my strategy. I don't go along the flow. I go different. No, I do different. No, because if I go along the trend, I go along the flow, the competition is very huge. Now I'm competing with other researchers who are also doing within the same the same topic. I choose to not follow the flow and do something different. And this is my own personal strategy. As my current project, it is about public transportation, how performance of public transportation can be increased. I have upcoming projects with several local authorities, and all of them are looking at how they can improve the performance and the efficiency of the public transportation services that they are providing to their people. And also I look at the design and integration of transport network, how to have a better network that increase the overall efficiency of public transportation services. This is something that I do nationally.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Zaly. I think hopefully that this webinar will give some of the insightful and also encourage among the new researcher or current researchers in the area of logistics and transportation in Malaysia. And hopefully that from this discussion or sharing can provide some of the direction for the student and also the researcher in higher institutions and also the CILTM members to conduct the research project. So with that, I think I pass the button to technologist Dr. Azam to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, technologist Khairul Rizwan. Thank you very much to Prof. Muhammad Zaly, Prof. Zaly. You give us a good guidance and then a good direction for us to conduct research. Dear participants, we almost come to the end of our webinars. So those who are still in this session, I would like to request, if you have not yet fill in the attendance form, please fill in the attendance forms. I already put it in the chat there. Please click to the link and fill in the form so that we could give you e-certificate for participating in this webinar. And also we will arrange with Dr. Zaly to obtain the slide. Right, Prof, with your permission, we would like to request your slide, and then we will share with the participant who registered and attended this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we already come to the end of our session. I hope that all of you have a good information about the research in logistics and transport. And for those who interested to join the Chartered Institute Logistics and Transport in Malaysia, feel free to check our website at www.ciltm.org.my, or you can search for the Chartered Institute Logistics and Transport in Malaysia. Feel free to know about CILT and also the areas of logistics, transportation, and supply chain. So participants, thank you very much for participating in this webinar. We come to the end. Thank you very much, and have a good, pleasant weekend and enjoy your day. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Prof, Khairul, can we stay for a few minutes for photo session?
Sure.
Penting tu Prof, kena ambil gambar tu. Saya lagi nak report balik dekat office, kata kita buat program.
Itulah, in fact kalau UTAR interested, dan kalau nak strategize, nak buat strategi